Today marks a moment of real significance for the Church of England and arguably for Britain's public life. After nearly 5 centuries of exclusively male leadership, the Church has chosen its first woman to serve as Archbishop of Canterbury. Dame Sarah Mullally, who is 63, currently the Bishop of London, will become the 106th Archbishop when she is confirmed in January and later enthroned in Canterbury Cathedral. Women were first ordained as priests in the Church of England only in 1994. The first female bishops followed in 2014. So this is a dramatic, though long anticipated milestone. The Anglican Communion counts 85 million members across 165 countries. The Archbishop of Canterbury is the first among equals among its bishops. And symbolically, this appointment says that women can now stand at the very top of the Anglican leadership. Dame Sarah's path is strikingly different from her predecessors. She spent 35 years in the NHS, rising to become England's chief nursing officer at just 37, the youngest person ever to hold that post. She was made a dame for services to nursing before ordination in 2006. Her second vocation has been rapid and reform-minded, Canon Treasurer at Salisbury, Bishop of Crediton, and since 2018 Bishop of London, the third most senior role in the Church. She has often said she has one vocation, lived out in different ways, to follow Christ and serve others. And that mixture of managerial competence, compassion and clinical realism could prove vital at a time when the Church's credibility is badly shaken. Her predecessor, Justin Welby, resigned last year in disgrace after a devastating safeguarding report found that he could and should have reported serial abuse by John Smith much earlier. The Church's handling of abuse has been a running wound for decades. Stephen Cottrell, the Archbishop of York, who acted as caretaker, has himself faced safeguarding criticism. Beyond abuse scandals, the Church faces declining attendance, disunity over same-sex marriage, and a generation largely indifferent to institutional religion. Polling shows 74% of Britons say they do not care who the new Archbishop is. Only a small minority want the role to speak out more on politics. Mullally is seen as a pragmatic modernizer but not a doctrinal radical. She helped steer the Church's long, painful process towards allowing blessings of same-sex couples in 2023, calling that decision a moment of hope. But she remains a clear opponent of assisted dying, describing recent UK legislation as unworkable and unsafe. She's repeatedly stressed listening deeply to God and to people and bringing divided communities together. On the day of her appointment, she condemned the Yom Kippur attack in Manchester, calling the violence horrific and pledging solidarity with Britain's Jewish community against anti-Semitism. That instinct for pastoral presence will be watched closely. Formally, the Prime Minister, towards the Church's choice to the King, who as Supreme Governor signs off the appointment, that process has now happened. Sir Keir Starmer welcomed her selection, calling the Archbishop key to our national life. King Charles III has also offered congratulations. The Archbishop sits in the House of Lords, influences national debates, and is frequently drawn into moral questions about Britain's direction. Yet the Church walks a global tightrope. African and Asian Anglican provinces often reject Western liberal stances on sexuality and gender, and Western dioceses push for inclusion. Mullally will have to hold together a communion already near breaking point. For campaigners for gender equality in the Church, this is a victory long fought for, but watch. Women in the Church notes that some bishops still refuse to take communion from a woman, and that many parishes legally restrict female ministry. Conservative Anglicans abroad may bristle. Liberal supporters, meanwhile, will expect visible change on inclusion and safeguarding. The balancing act is delicate. The immediate test is safeguarding, restoring trust for survivors and showing that the Church has learned from failure. The second is relevance, how to speak of Christian hope in a society that mostly shrugs at ecclesiastical politics but still turns to cathedrals at moments of grief and national celebration. And the third is global cohesion, keeping the Anglican communion from fracture. Rowan Williams once said the Archbishop must live with a newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other. Dame Sarah Mullally begins her tenure with both. Deep Christian conviction and sharp awareness of the wounded, plural and often sceptical Britain she will serve. Her appointment breaks an ancient barrier and may bring a more pastoral listening style to the Church in turmoil. Whether that can heal its deepest wounds remains to be seen, but for the first time in its history, the Church of England's voice to the nation and to the world will be a woman's.